Arid, a dry desert. And with flossinosinahilipilification, I'm sure I lost you. That cognitive reflex to imagine the word as an image shut down. Since the words were a random collection with no unifying relationship, they offered no contextual clues for the meaning of flossinosinahilipilification. You probably also didn't absorb the words that followed flossinosinahilipilification because your brain was tripped up by a word it couldn't understand. Now consider this. Imagine I took an old, beaten-up car to the auto body shop for an estimate. The mechanic came back to me and said, "Weston, the frame of the car has rust inside and out. The engine took 20 minutes to start. It's missing bolts on the sheet panels. Both axles are torqued, causing the alignment to be off. The torque converter is nearly broken down, so your transmission system is a few trips from being completely shot. At this rate, to get this car into any decent shape, it would cost more than it's worth. I'm afraid to say this car is a flossinosinahilipilification. It's just not worth fixing up." Someone in this situation would probably feel dejected to learn they could get nothing for an old beaten-up car. Now, do you know what flossinosinahilipilification means? You're probably arriving at a pretty accurate guess. Based on the context in which I use the word, you are able to gather that this word has something to do with value and worth, and it likely skews toward the side of having little value or worth. And you would be correct. Per dictionary.com, flossinosinahilipilification is a noun that means the estimation of something as valueless. Fun fact, it is encountered mainly as an example of one of the longest words in the English language. It's also encountered when I coach teachers about how to use blended instruction to teach vocabulary in a way that works. On that point, if I do a Google image search of old beaten-up car to provide you a visual to associate with flossinosinahilipilification, your odds of remembering the meaning of this word shoot up that much more. By now you know what the word flossinosinahilipilification means, and you are also likely to retain it. Pronouncing it might be another issue. This is because it was taught to you using the two most effective ways to learn vocabulary, context and picturing. Yet for some reason, some very mysterious, perplexing reason, this is not how we teach our students vocabulary. Instead, we give kids a list of words, often random and unrelated to each other, and ask them to find the definition in the dictionary and write it down. Then we hope they'll understand and remember it. We know that language gap is the main driver of the achievement gap between socioeconomic groups. A longitudinal study determined that by age 3, kids from wealthier families have a working vocabulary of 1,116 words. That number drops to 749 for kids from working-class families and slides all the way down to 525 for kids from families on welfare. Put another way, those kids from higher-class families know 367 words more than those from working-class families, and those kids from welfare families know less than half as many words as their upper-class counterparts. It's no wonder, then, that Hirsch has called growing students' vocabulary the key to upward mobility. Imagine how many flossinosinahilipilification moments students, especially those from middle and lower-class families, have every day in school. Now multiply that by 10 for our English language learners. Imagine what that means cumulatively for their ability to keep up with new concepts and ideas year after year. How did you feel when I sandwiched flossinosinahilipilification between arid and green? The confusion you felt, the desperate attempt to search for context clues, and how this impaired your focus on what followed happens to students all the time in school. Your flossinosinahilipilification is kids, chromosome, denominator, analogy. And the only way around these moments of confusion is to teach vocabulary how kids learn it. Throughout the 2009-2010 school year, researchers from the University of Michigan at Ann Arbor and Michigan State University at East Lansing observed 55 kindergarten teachers from districts of various poverty levels. Rarely did they observe a teacher who delivered structured, formal vocabulary lessons. Instead, most taught vocabulary as it came up, such as when reading a book to students. This created situations where the words these students were taught had little relation to the concepts they were learning at the time, and they usually were not academic words that would advance students' understanding in later grades or other subject areas. We know this approach doesn't work, yet most of us are guilty of it. That's okay. Remember Allison and Simba in chapter 3?